Once upon a time, there was a girl who perhaps received a miracle or achieved what was declared to be impossible, according to the experts, to the textbooks, and even ChatGPT said this was impossible. So, what happened? How did this girl discover an accidental greatness within her that she wasn't even looking for? There was no goal around it, but something perhaps miraculous occurred in this real-life story of this girl who lives on a forest mountain. But before I tell you the story, it's important for you to know that the reason why this story is important has nothing to really do with what was happening in the story. But it's a powerful reminder that although you may think you're ordinary, you do have a profound greatness within you that is bursting at the seams, ready to be a beacon of light in this world, in some way, shape, or form, even if it's something you've never thought of before. And notice where you see along the story where another person's influence came along and had a subconscious influence that seemingly unlocked everything, perhaps without any intention or awareness. And also notice the opposite, where there may be some characters in this story that try to diminish the greatness of the girl in this story. And the reason why that's so important to notice is because the more that you become aware of these things, the more that you will become aware of the people in your life who are diminishing your greatness and trying to make you small. Not out of malice, but it's usually because they're trying to give you really small and safe stepping stones because they don't want to see you get hurt. But really it's because they don't see the greatness within you, and they're just projecting their own insecurities onto what you are capable of. So let's get into the story, shall we? So, last Sunday, this girl decided to type into ChatGPT a prompt about herself that said, hey, if there is a 40-year-old woman who is 5'4", 130 pounds, doesn't do any cardiovascular exercise, and hasn't really had much of a history of that ever, but she does lift weights 3 times per week, and she started that 11 weeks ago. And she does go on maybe 3 or 4 walks from her house per week, and that maybe is 3 to 10 miles in total. And maybe 2 or 3 times a month, she'll go on a little hike with a friend. And that's the extent of her exercising. That was the prompt given to ChatGPT. And then the question is, how long would it take this girl, this woman, to run 10 miles straight without stopping, with a 1,000-foot elevation gain, and go 5.6 miles per hour? And ChatGPT then went on to say, it will take this girl 12 weeks to train to be able to run 10 miles without stopping, 1,000-foot elevation gain, 5.6 miles per hour. And then it proceeded to give a schedule, which also included things like hydration and electrolytes and resting, a number of miles per day, and the whole thing. And this girl said, this is a garbage BS schedule. And she said, what if I want to do it in 3 days? And ChatGPT said, I love your enthusiasm and motivation, but that's just not possible. perhaps you can do it symbolically, but not realistically. And this girl just laughed out loud. In fact, she even brought this question to some people who she knows who have been runners for a long time and have done the research and have been doing running and have been creating their own schedules. And they said the exact same thing, pretty much identical to what ChatGPT said. And then both ChatGPT and the people that she asked proceeded to give all the reasons why, a very long and lengthy list of reasons why it just frankly would not be possible. And this girl was laughing. She was laughing. Now, why was she laughing? Why was she laughing? This happened on Sunday. This was all taking place Sunday. Today's Tuesday, by the way. This was Sunday 2 days ago. She was laughing because, well, just a few days before all of that, on Wednesday, she decided to go for one of her regular walks, and all of a sudden a very unusual thing happened. She was walking and noticed this sensation in her body that had an urge to just go run. Not run from fear, but run from joy and playfulness. The kind of running that you see little kids do on the playground when they're just having so much fun. This playful joy just came over her body as she was walking, and she felt like running. So she decided to act on the urge and said, why not? And she just started running up the mountain road that she lives on. And she was having so much fun that eventually she started even skipping these really high jumps. She's skipping up a mountain along the road in the forest where she lives. And she was giggling and laughing and wondering if any cars would pass her along the way, and she hoped they would. And hoped it would bring them joy, too, to see this adult woman skipping and laughing up the road. Now on that walk, skip, jump, run, walk, skip, jump, run, she was cycling between all of them. And she went to go feed some of her friends, which happened to be goats. And it was one of her normal occurrences, feeding carrots to her friends that live along the mountain road. And when she got home, she noticed something. She goes, that was a lot of fun. I'm going to intentionally run tomorrow morning on Thursday. But there was something more to it, something so much more to it. I'll tell you that in a little bit. I'm not going to give it away yet, but it's really big and special. And perhaps that's where the true miracle comes in. So, this girl was always told that running was hard and not fun, and she knew about the runner's high, and there were like maybe 10 times she ran in high school, like 10 runs. Like it wasn't a lot, and it was always not fun for her. But this time was really fun. And she was so excited to get up and run the next morning. That's what she did. She goes, maybe I'll go like a full 1.5 miles, or maybe even 2 miles. So she got her running shoes on in the morning, and she went and she ran, and she didn't clock it or time it or anything. This was just for fun. And she got back from her run, and she loved it so much. She said, oh my goodness, I'm going to do it again tomorrow on Friday. And she said to herself, maybe I'll even go a full 3 miles. So Friday came along. She got her special running shoes on. She had owned these shoes for years, but now all of a sudden they were running shoes. Now all of a sudden they were running shoes. So she put on her special running shoes and she ran, and this time she decided to clock it on an app that says all the information. Your pace and your elevation gain and the distance, and it maps it all out for you. And so she went running, and as she was running back to her house, which was down the mountain. She was approaching her driveway, and she noticed a sensation in her body that was the urge to keep running. So she paid attention, and she just ran right past her house and just kept on going down the mountain. And she was quite pleased with herself. She was in awe. She was surprised. She didn't know that anything like this could happen, especially the unspoken miracle that I'll tell you about in a little bit. That is perhaps making her most happy of all. So she was going down the mountain past her house, and she was going and going, and she was like, oh, this is a pretty steep part of the mountain going down this road. And she said, I better turn around because I have a lot of uphill to do. So she went uphill, and ooh, she felt it. And as she was approaching her house on the uphill going back, she was at, maybe 4.25 miles. And she saw that number, and she goes, I just know I can make it to 5 miles. I just know it. So what did she do? She passed her house again, going up the mountain. And as it was approaching 5.5 miles, she said to herself, she goes, I bet I can make it to 6. I bet I can make it to 6 miles. And then in that moment, another thought occurred. She said, I know if I make it to 6, I can make it to 10. I know if I make it to 6, I can make it to 10. And in that moment, this girl had an internal, subconscious identity shift about what was possible for her. Especially, we haven't even gotten to the part yet about the big secret thing behind the scenes that makes this even more of a miracle. The identity of who she is and what she believes she is capable of is changing mile by mile, realizing what she's capable of. And so she was running, got to the 6-mile mark, and in that moment she said, I just know I can make it to 10. But she was running uphill, up the mountain, and that uphill was getting to her, and there were moments where she would say things like, maybe I can only make it to 7 or 8. And then she would turn around and run back down the mountain, and with the help of gravity, she would say, I just know I can make it to 10 miles. And she would pass her house again, going down the mountain, and she would turn around and go up the hill and be, maybe I can only make it to 8. And this kept happening. And then she got to mile 9. And on mile 9, she said to herself with such certainty, it is a fact of the universe that I will make it to 10 miles on this run. And that 10th mile was a struggle. That 10th mile was a struggle. And she found a stretch of road along the forest that wasn't really uphill or downhill. It was more of a flat stretch, and she decided to go back and forth on that stretch. It was about 1/3 of a mile long. And it was challenging. She was slowing down, but despite the pain she was feeling in her feet, the slowed down pace, she knew with absolute certainty that she was absolutely making it to mile 10. She made it to 10.02 miles. She wanted to make sure. And boy, was she surprised, and she was proud of herself. And she realized that there was a conversation, in fact, 2 conversations she had had with the same friend several weeks prior. One of them, she said to a friend, she said to him, I don't really know what it's like to really, really push my body physically and see what I'm really capable of. She said, I would love to know what that's like. I haven't really done that. And his response was the same thing for himself. And that conversation was one of the things that kept her going on mile 10. And even before, it was something that ignited a fuel of excitement within her. But there was something even more special, more important. Because this same man said something to her recently about, oh, bring your running shoes. Even though running wasn't involved, it was just bring your running shoes. Which maybe could just mean like, hey, make sure you have athletic shoes, something to be physically active in. And she thought to herself, oh, that's funny. He thinks I'm a runner. Or wants me to be one and is dropping a subtle hint. Either way, it didn't matter. This girl didn't think too much of it. But that did something profound to her subconscious mind. Her subconscious mind perceived it as someone else in the world seeing her as a runner, seeing the potential of who she could be as a runner, without any limiting beliefs imposed on that identity. Now, how is this different from, well, before going there, that was an incredibly powerful subconscious programming that that girl had received. Her subconscious mind said, oh, there's someone in the world who sees the potential of me as a runner. Maybe I do have that potential. Maybe that greatness does exist within me. Now, this girl's conscious rational mind wasn't aware of any of that, but the subconscious mind was fully aware and it sunk in. It was a form of hypnosis that sunk in. Just at the mere suggestion of someone else saying, hey, bring your running shoes, the subconscious mind goes, oh, someone out there in the world sees me as a runner, as that being part of my identity. They see the potential that already does truly exist. So the subconscious mind says, let's just snap into that identity. But here's the truly remarkable part. This girl, she has attempted running. A few times a year she would attempt running. This girl who lives on a forest mountain and walks and feeds her friends carrots along the way, the horses and the goats and the donkeys. The thing about this is this girl had a physical limitation, which technically is called mast cell degranulation, for anyone who might want the science textbook label of it. And every time this girl would attempt to go running, at about a quarter mile in, her body would make her stop because her body would have an incredibly massive inflammatory response. Her body would begin to attack herself. There would be such a massive and alarming histamine response that it would stop her in her tracks and she couldn't continue, and her skin would turn red and it would feel like 1,000 burning mosquito bites all at once. And it was a skyrocket of horrible and intense inflammation. The body was attacking itself. And this girl had just kind of succumbed to the fact that maybe she could never really be a runner or do those things. And in fact, just a couple months prior to this 10-mile run that she did, she attempted to run. Just about 2 months prior, as she does a few times per year. And it was another no-go. It just didn't happen. It was a no-go. So what happened? What happened? When that man said, bring your running shoes, there was a subconscious shift that happened without her awareness that said, oh, I'm a runner. You just declared with such certainty, bring your running shoes. No doubt, no uncertainty, unwavering. The subconscious mind responded and said, oh, I'm a runner now. That means that physical thing that used to happen when we would try to run can no longer happen. And a true healing took place within her body that she had been trying to heal for many years. It was one of the final things she was trying to heal in her body for years as a result of a 5-year healing journey she took when she had ingested a naturally occurring seafood neurotoxin that put a 19-millimeter lesion on the left front lobe of her brain that would begin to unravel the myelin sheath around her nerves. That would make her forget the most memorable things. That would attempt to stop her heart too many dozens of times to even keep track of. She was just so glad to still have a beating heart that if she just had this little thing left behind still, it was totally okay. But when someone comes along and sees the greatness within you and speaks it into your identity as if you are already living it, already embodying it, then the subconscious mind has an opportunity to open up and take that in and become that, and become the potential, live it, become it, make it real. And that is exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. And so instead of taking 12 weeks to do the run and trying to figure out how to heal that thing, it miraculously happened a 3-day training schedule while also healing this physical thing that the body had been carrying for years. That was a hurdle, a self-imposed limiting belief. But there's more. There is so much more to this. I wrote this little sticky note down. It says, if you want to be great, you must spend time with people who see your greatness. You must spend time with people who see your greatness. That's what happened in the case of this girl in this story. Because when we are spending time with people who see our greatness, it allows our subconscious mind to believe that it is possible for us to live in a great way, to show up with greatness, to inspire with greatness, to heal with greatness, to show up for others in a way of service that is great. But there's more to this story. I wrote down a couple other things. So, did you know that there are many people who try to dim your light and keep you small and diminish your greatness? Yes, sometimes it's because they're jealous and they don't want to see you succeed. But in most cases, it's probably because they love you and they care for you, and they believe that going big is too much of a risk and that you'll get hurt somehow. Let me give you prime examples. So, I texted my mom and told her what I did. And also, when I ran the 10 miles, I knew that it was miraculous, but I didn't know it was miraculous because of the 3-day thing. I just knew of what had healed inside of my body. I guess I just gave it away that that girl was me. Spoiler alert. I didn't know that it was so miraculous, aside from that histamine effect no longer happening in my body. But 2 days later, when I asked ChatGPT how long it would take, and it said 12 weeks, that's 84 days, and I did it in 3 days. And then I asked, what if I want to do this in 3 days instead? And the answer it gave me was, that's not possible. The answer that real-life runners gave me was, that's not possible. The answer that the textbooks would say is, that's not possible. It was in that moment, 2 days afterwards, that I started to realize even more how miraculous it really was. And the fact that when I had my ciguatera neurotoxin illness, I didn't know if I would survive. I could barely walk in a straight line down my hallway. Sometimes I would be bedridden for 19 hours at a time. I wouldn't have even remembered if you visited me and we had the most amazing conversation. My heart was always trying to stop. And I would collapse on the floor all the time. And quite frankly, didn't know if I was going to survive. So the fact that my life even got to where it is already a miracle. But to be able to do this run, and then let me tell you the response that my parents gave me individually. They don't live together. Thank God. When I told my mom, her response wasn't, "Oh my gosh, Jessica, that's amazing. Look how far you've come. I'm so proud of you. Look at you go." It was, "Jessica, you should have stopped at 5 miles." That was literally her response. It wasn't saying, "Mom, I'm going to attempt a 10-mile run," and her saying, "You should probably only attempt 5 to try to keep me safe." It was, "No, I already did it, and I was successful, and it was amazing, and I feel fantastic. Look at me go. Look how far I've come." And her response was, "Jessica, you should have stopped at 5. Be aware of people who try to keep you small and dim your light and shrink your greatness. They do it because they love you and they think that small stepping stones are going to keep you safe." So what did my dad say? I told him all about it. And instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. Look how far you've come," his response was, "Don't overdo it, Jessica. Don't overdo it." I told him yesterday. And I'm like, wow. It gave me such a massive insight of how both of my parents have tried to keep me small, hold me back, dim my light, diminish my greatness. Not because they don't love me, but it's because they do love me. And they fear that going big, being great, is dangerous. They think it's safer to play it small. Little stepping stones, play it safe. Keep it small. I'm like, whoa, that's the subconscious programming I've gotten from my parents my whole life? Wow. Be aware of when people try to diminish your vision, diminish your goal, diminish your dream, try to slow you down with small stepping stones. Be aware of that, and be aware if you're doing that to other people. And so, the takeaways here: you have a hidden greatness within you that you haven't even thought about. In fact, it's going to be a lot of things. I know for me, it's more than just the running. And I will say that one of the reasons why it worked is because there was a part of me that desired to have that physical condition go away and to not have that self-imposed limitation. And much of our chronic physical ailments and conditions, the only reason why they stay in our body is because we believe that it's going to stay in our body. When we have the belief that it is gone, then it actually does go away. That's how I healed my Ciguatera neurotoxin illness and healed myself from my deathbed. And there are countless examples of this around the world. Countless. So be aware of your self-imposed limitations. Be aware of who is trying to dim your light and keep you small. Be really intentional about finding people to have in your inner circle who see your greatness and speak it into you. Make sure you have people in your inner circle who see your greatness and speak it into you, even far beyond what you can see within yourself right now. And make sure, this is one of the best things that you can do. Look for the greatness within others and speak it into them. Look for the greatness within others and speak it into them. This is something that I learned from my coach, Mark von Muser. If you ask him what his purpose is, that's what it is. To see the greatness within others and speak it into them until they see it themselves and live in accordance with their greatness. and be of higher service to others as a result of it. So this whole running thing is fun and special and feels really amazing. And the bigger lesson I'm personally taking from this is asking myself the question of where else in my life have I been playing it small? And where am I ready to massively jump leagues ahead? Where else can I make a massive and perhaps miraculous leap forward in a way that feels absolutely amazing and incredible? Something that I have intentional goals around. I never had a goal around running 10 miles. And in fact, well, the first goal I had around 10 miles was when I was running and I was on mile number 6. That's the moment my goal was to run 10 miles. And I was already 6 miles into it. So once upon a time, there was a girl who defeated the odds and achieved the miraculous. And it wasn't on her own. It was because there was someone who believed in her, that spoke the truth of potential into her. And perhaps there was some divine intervention at play. I believe there was. Okay, that's it for now, and I will see you in the next story.